Hello and welcome back to another episode of From Mammal to Channel. So last episode I had a feeling it was a little much, maybe a little confusing, and that an actual example could be helpful to understand these concepts and ideas. And so I thought I can give you an example, a big one from my life, and also do that process I told you about last episode, the work with that example. I just want to briefly summarize last episode, just in case somebody's watching this without having watched the other episode. It was about the idea that our body is a truth detector, and that our negative feelings that we feel in our body are telling us that we simply believe something that is not true about us, about life. And I also talked about radical self-responsibility, that this is pure self-empowerment to do that, and to realize that you are giving your power away whenever you blame someone or something, instead of seeing that we are the creators of our life and our reality, and we have all the power, and we cannot change other people, and we don't have control over certain things and other people. The only thing that we have control over and that we can change is ourselves and how we feel within, and that very much defines how we perceive life, reality, how we are feeling here. If we are balanced and in our hearts and experiencing and creating and living love and joy and peace, or if we are very much not in balance and we have a lot of negative feelings in here, a lot of judgment, and we are very much in ego, then we perceive our reality in a completely different way. So it's basically all about coming into unconditional self-love. I can tell you, it always comes back to that. It always boils down to that. Self-love. Always. If you understand that, it's only about self-love. When you are in 100% self-love, you don't have any problems at all. If you understand that, then you have mastered that game that we call life, really. And okay, let's have a look about at this idea of that we have the power and the control about everything in our life and ourselves, and it's all within us. It's always about us, always, without an exception. So in the last episode I told you about this thing that I love, pointing fingers at somebody, always 3 fingers pointing right back at you, and that is so brilliant because it's so true. Without any exception, it's always about us. And I know it's can be confusing and hard to understand if it's the first time that you hear about this, because whatever example in your life you choose, your logical mind is probably telling you, but that person said that to me, or that person did that to me, or that happened to me, and that caused this or that within me. This is not me. This happened to me. It's not me. And yes, I can understand that. And that's true. But it's all about what gets triggered here within you. Life is happening, people are happening, they are behaving however they want to behave. The question is, how does that affect you? What do you do with that? And if you think about it, if it weren't true, if it wasn't true that it's all about us always and we have the control, that would mean that your happiness is completely dependent on how other people behave around you, right? So when you get up in the morning, you would have to hope that you not encounter people who are in a bad mood or who are angry, or that you don't get into situations that trigger you. And so you would be 100% dependent on other people and things outside your control, right? That feels stressful. That cannot be right. And I tell you, it isn't. It isn't, really, it isn't. So let me tell you one of my favorite, maybe I call it thought experiment, because it's brilliant, because it's so easy. It makes it so much easier to understand what I'm talking about here. So imagine somebody walks up to you and tells you, oh man, or girl, or woman, or whatever. Let's delete that. These short pink hair or green hair or whatever really look really bad on you. Like, they really don't fit you at all. And you know that you don't have short pink hair or green hair, and if you're not sure, you can have a look in the mirror and you see the reality. So when somebody says something like that to you, there's no way that you would believe that, right? You wouldn't believe that you really have short pink hair all of a sudden. No, you would think that that person is joking, or something's wrong with the perception of that person. Maybe he has some problem with mental problems or problems with their eyes. But you would for sure think it's something wrong with that person, and you would not believe that it's true what they are saying. And it's like that with everything about you, with everything. It's just that when it's about physical appearance that you can check with your own eyes in the mirror, it's very easy and very clear. And it is not so clear if it's about not visible things, like your intelligence or other core values that you have. And the thing is, when somebody says something to you and you have the slightest, tiniest little belief within you that is in resonance with what that person says, then that hurts. And for example, if you believe that you are the most intelligent person in the world and somebody tells you you're stupid, but you know you're the most intelligent person in this world, you would, again, in the same way like with the hair, think, what's wrong with that person? Oh, okay. And you would not believe that you're really stupid. But on the other hand, if you grew up with experiences where people told you or made you feel stupid, and you never cleared that, you never replaced that with truth, then that is somewhere within you, and it gets triggered every time somebody tells you or gives you the feeling that you are stupid. And that is true with anything within us. And so that is the brilliant thing about that process, the work, because it always brings you back. It makes you realize that whatever problem you think you have with someone or with a situation in your life, it always brings it back to you and makes you understand that it's your own thoughts and your own beliefs about yourself and your life that are hurtful because they are not in alignment with your truth. and not the actual situation of that person. So let's have a specific example. So when I started on my spiritual path after my miscarriage, that helped me so much to allow myself to follow my heart. I quit my job at the university because it was very clear to me that I cannot spend one more second with something that I just knew it wasn't for me, where my heart wasn't in. And I just felt like I absolutely need time for me to solve all that pain and all the things that were going on within me. But it took me, actually, and that might sound surprising, a whole other year to let go of the idea that I wanted to finish my PhD thesis. So they were two separate things, working at the university and doing my PhD thesis. And at that point, I already had finished my practical work at the university for the thesis. And I've already written the greater part of the thesis. There was really just a relatively small part left. And even though I recognized that for myself, that I never ever want to do something in my life that doesn't make me happy, that wasn't in alignment with my heart, isn't in alignment with my heart, I somehow connected it more to a professional job, and wasn't able to see that I still was forcing myself and torturing myself with that PhD thesis. And I could see it very easily and clear in other people around me, that they were doing things and are doing things, following jobs that I could clearly see it's not their passion, and they're like more or less keeping themselves in an unhappy space because they hold on to that belief that it's normal and that's how life is supposed to be, and so on. And so I could clearly see that in others, but I was blind for myself with that every time I forced myself to sit down and continue writing on that thesis, that I was doing exactly the same thing. And that is because ego is tricky, as I told you. And I for sure going to do an episode about the tricky ego. Because I kept telling myself, well, I already knew that I wanted to do something spiritual then, of course. And so my ego told me it would be easier for skeptical people to trust that and to open up to these spiritual things when I have a PhD. and many other things and ideas. And so it was just about I told myself that it was just about finding a new access and a new approach to that, to writing that thesis that would make it super easy to sit down and write it, actually. And it was just probably I have some belief that I need to clear, and of course that all just felt stressful and heavy. And thanks to my wonderful, beautiful friend Katie Leanne, the Soul Purpose Channel, she helped me so much with that, realizing that and seeing clearly there and recognizing my truth. And to finally, after 1 year, getting to that point where it was so clear that, oh my goodness, no, all the good reasons that I believed that I had to have about completing that PhD thesis and getting that title, that they were all outside of me. There was not one reason that I felt coming from within, from my heart. There was no heart desire to have that, to become Dr. Marilena. No, I could all see these people in my mind that I could see being proud of me and liking that and whatever. But I realized at that point that it's simply that there are all the reasons I perceived outside of me There was nothing within me that wanted to continue with that. And when I then finally decided for myself that I would give it up, that I would quit, that felt so exhilarating, amazing. It was this feeling of freedom and liberation all at once. It was just the best. And it was only at that point that I realized how heavy that was, what burden I held on to. And it was only me holding on to that. And I did not realize how heavy that felt, the extent of the heaviness, until I freed myself from that. Oh my God, that was just the best. And my husband was also so supportive of that. And that also helped me and accelerated that process of me getting to that point of freeing myself from that. And it was just the best. And at that point, I really believed that I 100% freed myself from all of that. But it turned out I hadn't. And that is the story that is connected to that example that I picked for you. So I had somebody in my life that I felt that that person was really proud of me, of my path that I took at university, that I was about to become a PhD and in chemistry. And for him, it was, for them, it was a big deal. And that's how I perceived it, that it was something really important, and it was an essential part of our relationship, I felt. And so when I thought about telling that person my decision, I could already feel resistance to that. So it took me quite a long time, and that could have already told me that there was still something within me, but again, I was blind to that. I don't know how, but it was like that. And so I really had to gather courage and strength to tell that person my decision. And just as I deep down feared and expect that person didn't react in a supportive, loving way, but in a quite cold, distant way. Actually, they just said like one sentence and that was it. And that was really, really hurtful in that moment. Oh my goodness. That really brought tears to my eyes, and that hurt a lot. And I was already so far in my spiritual self-development that I became aware immediately when it hurt that much that obviously there was a part within me that was not okay with me, with that decision, that I wasn't 100% accepting and loving to myself about that. But in that moment, it was still very hurtful. I just knew in theory that it had to be like that because of my that emotional pain that I was feeling. But it wasn't so very clear to me what thoughts exactly, and what beliefs were there that caused that. So I want to use that example to choose one thought and one belief. And let's just pretend that I wasn't aware of the fact that it was me, and that there was a belief within me that wasn't okay with that decision. So let's just pretend that and see what ego has to offer, as I always call it. I think I also told you that in another episode. I don't think about ego as my enemy or something that has to be, we have to fight. And no, and it's just something that is there, that is part of our human experience here. It's not individual at all. If you know one ego, you know them all. So it's nothing individual. It's just something there. Sometimes I imagine like these thoughts and beliefs swimming on the surface of Earth. They can enter your mind and you can choose to believe them or not. And so I always say ego is offering you something, because actually if you look through that game, ego's game, if you understand it, it's always a chance to get to know yourself better. So I'm always saying ego is offering something in order to show you what you are not. So let's ask ego in that situation. I could have thought, oh my God, that person is so not supportive and loving. He obviously doesn't care about my true happiness. They just want to hold on to their little box, be conservative, want to press and fit me into that box that they believe is the only right way to do things in life. And obviously that person doesn't care about my true happiness and is not supportive and is not interested in my true self. And yes, things like that. So let's pick one out there. Let's say that person is not supportive of my true self and therefore my true happiness. But in order to not make it that long, let's pick the short version. Is not supportive of my true self. And I don't know if that's correct English. Excuse me if it's not. I'm not sure. But you understand what I mean. And so let's do the work with that. The work is a process that is asking you to go into your heart. It's not a process for your mind. So I ask you, myself, to put the mind on standby, to go in the heart. And there are 4 questions and 1 turnaround. And these 1 questions, they are asked in a way to invite you to feel within. So it's more like a little bit like a meditation. You get quiet your mind, and you go within and you feel within. So it's not about finding logical answers. It's not about justifying what is going on within you. And there's a tendency to do that, and so become aware of that. And the first 2 questions are yes or no questions, and there's no right or wrong. It's just however it comes up within you, it's the right thing. Okay? So the first question is that true? That person is not supportive of my true self. Is that true? And I'm not answering from here, yes, obviously, because no, that's ego. We're not interested in that. We go within, take a deep breath. So, and I'm trying to get to get myself in that ego state because I am now, of course, at the place where I know it's not true. But if I imagine myself being caught in that, I can feel that would come a yes. Yes, it's true. It's true. So the second question is, can you be absolutely sure that it's true? So can you be absolutely sure that this is true, that this is 100% truth? No other explanation, that is the truth. He's not supportive of my true self. No. That is what is coming up for me. And for me it was like that from the very beginning when I started the work, that this question always triggered something deeper within me, and it was always clear there were a few examples where I've really felt a yes, and again, there's no right or wrong. It's just about becoming aware of how you respond to that. So for me, this is a no. Okay, the next question is, how do you react? How does it feel when you believe that thought? Okay, in my mind, I'm going back into that scene, and I feel into that belief, in that thought. He's not supportive of my true self. I just discovered this thing about me that I feel is my true self, and I bring it to him, to them, and they react in that way. They're not supportive of my true self, obviously. How does that feel? How do I react? I feel sadness. I can feel it in my heart. It feels like it closes. It feels heavy. In my stomach, it feels as if there was something heavy, big, cold. Tension is there. I feel like my throat closes. My jaw feels tense and a little like I wanted to start crying. Definitely feel it strongly in my heart. It's closing down, like as in need of protection, like going in and down. And when I look to that person, I feel distance. It feels cold. I feel like I want to lean back, like it feels really harsh and hard. It hurts. That is what I feel in my heart, that hurt, the pain. There's a lot of pain that I feel is connected with a feeling of not being enough, not being good enough, not being worthy of affection and love. And overall, I really feel small and alone and sad and alone and unloved. Okay, deep breath. Now, the fourth step or question is to imagine that you cannot believe that thought. You cannot have that thought. You cannot think it. So for some people that is difficult. You can imagine that you take a big a rubber and delete that thought, or an angel or fairy comes by and removes that thought. It's just not there. You are still in that situation, in that scene, but you cannot have that thought. It's gone. It's not there. So who are you now? How do you feel in that situation? Who are you when you cannot have that thought, you not believe that? I'm feeling calm again, relaxed. I'm even aware of a little like sparkling feeling in here because I spoke my truth. And the other person is just there. And I can actually feel love, I'm aware that behind whatever reaction and expression that person chose, that there's a lot of love, and I feel much closer and peaceful and really relaxed. I feel good in myself. My heart feels calm, open. My belly is relaxed. My throat feels normal. My jaw as well. You see what a difference. And that is, nothing has changed. Just that one thought, that I chose to not believe that thought. That's all that changed. And it's always like that. This is not just me, because I'm very practiced with that, and I have a lot of experience, and I actually already have cleared that whole situation for me. That I'm experiencing like that. It was like this for me from the very beginning, from the very first work that I did for myself, and whenever I do it with somebody else, it's just like that. So the last step is to turn that statement around, and that's the key point. That's what brings it back to you. That what helps you to see your truth. So let's do that. The original statement was, that person isn't supportive of my true self. Let's turn that around. So for me, the most obvious one is, I'm not supportive of my true self. And yes, that is so true. That was so true. Looking back, absolutely, there was a part within me that was still blaming me. I still allowed ego to be in there, to have power over me and to tell me things unconsciously that it's wrong, that I have quit my PhD thing, that I'm missing out of something, that I'm chose the wrong thing, that I could have gained something much more important, valuable than what I was choosing. Things like that. That I'm, that this is something so respected in society, a PhD title. And I just throw that away. What did I do with my life? And just to follow something that is woo-woo stuff that nobody understands and respects, and people will judge you as crazy, and they will do so even more without that PhD title. And so on and so on. There was still that within me. Yes, and that's why it was hurtful for me when that person reacted in that way. Because it connected to that part of me. It felt like that was confirmation of that part. And it was so hurtful because all these thoughts were just ego thoughts and clearly not in alignment with myself, because they made me feel like really bad. And what's the truth is that I had the courage and the strength to follow my heart, to do something that I hardly know anyone in my life who did that, something like that. That's something that is comparable to that. And I did that without any role model in my life for that. I was radically following my heart without the approval of people around me, or at least I perceived it like that. And I very proud of myself for having done that. And I know, I can see so clearly how I was just miserable in that chemistry world, and it was the opposite of being happy. And there was no way for me to change something, to adjust, to find a new approach to that would make me happy. No. And I so much love what I'm doing now and today, and that brings me the greatest joy, that lights me up in a way that I've had not experienced before. I love it so much. It's a completely new life, and it is, for me, I know and I feel it's my happiest expression, the happiest version. And I'm here because I was willing to radically follow my heart. And I want to celebrate myself for that every day. And that's the truth. And that's the truth. And now, if somebody reacted in that way, all there would be, if I go back in that situation, I relive that, and I replace my older self, former self with myself now, you know how I would react? I would have a lot of compassion with that person, because my reaction, nothing is there to trigger me within, so I don't react in that emotional way. There's no reaction there. So my heart doesn't close down, my heart stays open, and I can actually see truth. And the truth is that I have deep compassion with that person in that moment, because I know we all always want to be our heart version, that version of ourselves that is in alignment. So we always want to be that supportive, loving person especially for the people that we love. And if we are caught in some ego stories and ideas that prevent us from doing that, we are hurting ourselves, we are denying our true selves in that moment. And we are hurting ourselves. And now when I look at that, I can actually see the pain in that person. And I have a lot of compassion. I want to hug that person and say, it's all right, it's okay. I know that you love me. And I know all of this is coming actually from a place of love, because you believe that you know what's good for me and what's the best thing for me. And that is because you care so much about me and you love me. I could see that love actually. Can you see how completely different that scene is all of a sudden? And all that changed was that belief that I allowed myself 100% to support my true self. You see? Yeah, that was the point. I wasn't supporting myself 100%. I was still holding myself in a place where I judged myself. And when I let that go, I moved completely into my happiness. And there's no way there's really right now, there's no regret and no, did I do the right thing then? It's out of question for me. For me, the purpose of life is to find one's happiness, and we can only do that with if we find self-love, if we allow, through that self-love, allow ourselves to be our true selves. Radically, 100%. And so just quickly coming back to that process of the work, another turnaround would be that I am not supportive of that person's true self. And that's true, that's just what I just said, right? In that when I'm so caught in that ego reaction and and that causes me to see that person in a really bad light. I'm not able to see the love that that person actually has for myself. And that's the true self of that person is pure love, like we all are. And that would express in just celebrating me for that stuff. That would be the true self of the person. And in that moment, I believe the ego version of that person, and that's not very kind. To believe that what he's showing me in that moment, that's his true self, and that's not true. That's just his BS. Like I learned it from Susanne Giesman, the medium. She said that for belief system, BS, just his BF, which is expressing, and it's not his true self. His true self, their true self, is pure love and being the most loving and supportive person for me in my life, right? And so you see how brilliant the work is, and it's always like that. It's always that amazing. Really, try it out. And don't allow myself. That's something I caught my husband doing that. What wants ego? Ego always wants to protect itself. It doesn't want to go through that process, because then you're looking right through its tricks, and so ego doesn't like that. So what is ego telling you? Oh, this 4 question and the turnaround in the end. Oh, I already know the turnaround. So I have that original statement and I turn it around and there we go, already did it. It's not the same. You need that process of feeling the effect of that, and it's a whole different thing. And then, oh, I forgot the most important thing. When you do the turnaround, you should come up with at least 3 reasons how that new statement is true. So for me, it is already so so natural and clear that I forgot about that. So to turn it around and I say, I'm not supportive of myself. How is that true? Is that true, or even more true than the original statement? And then I say, yes, it is true. I can see that I had a belief. I was still blaming myself and shaming myself there, and allowed ego to tell me these things. And and that I'm not doing this right now to come up with 2 other reasons that I assure you I can find and more, because that is that part, and it's already 42 minutes in the video, would take a little time. But that's actually the part where you integrate this new belief, that new discovered truth. When you sit down and think about it, how is it true? And it's the integrating part. It's important. And so, all right. I hope that was helpful for you. And just thinking. No, it's okay. No, I really won't have to come to an end now. That really truly is my passion. I could go on and on and on with these things, but I hope this example was helpful to see how it is always about us, how these unresolved things that we unconsciously hold within us, these beliefs about ourselves and life, how they really affect how we perceive other people and our reality and ourselves. And doing that process, first becoming aware of negative feelings, things that trigger you, and then going through that process that leads you to self-love. And that is really life-changing. That really is a real game changer. I can guarantee you that. And this is, I think, one of the biggest gifts that you can give yourself, to commit to that and to put in the time and the energy to do that, because it is really fun. It's not hard work. Don't let your ego tell you that. It really becomes, once you get used to it and you understand it, it really is so much fun. It really is so much fun, because it always brings you closer and closer to your true self. There's always more joy and more excitement and more just loving life and yourself and therefore life. Okay. Now I'm really going to stop. Okay. See you hopefully in the next episode. Bye.